Hello Cloud Gurus and welcome to the final chapter, which I've titled Other Things You Need to Know About. Though we've covered everything Amazon have specified in the exam outline, there are a few more things that you should learn and a few more services you should learn about before sitting the exam. So I've put together this module to do just that. You're almost there, so let's get started. Hello Cloud Gurus and welcome to this lecture on tagging. I've briefly mentioned it in other lectures, but we'll go a little bit deeper here. So what is it? A tag is a label that you assign to an AWS resource. It consists of a key and a value, both of which you define, and a key can only have one value. Being able to tag your resources has a number of benefits, the main ones being that you can organize your resources. You could organize them by owner, by environment, by purpose, by the person who created it, and so on. And it also allows you to track your costs. We have a quick example here of two EC2 servers. The first has the tag owner being sales, it has the environment set to production, and the OS is set to Linux. The second has the owner set to developers, the environment is set to development, and the OS is also Linux. Just to make it a bit more obvious, the key is owner and the value is sales. So you can immediately start to see that the tags let you organize your resources, and most of the interfaces will let you show your resources by tag. So you can view all of your EC2 instances with the OS set to Linux, or all of your production environment servers, and so on. Now, one benefit tagging will give you in the DevOps world is the ability to use IAM conditions to control access to AWS resources based on tag. And this is an excellent security feature that's built into your entire AWS account. So let's take a look at this example. This IAM policy can be applied to a user account to only allow a user to start and stop instances. And it applies to all EC2 instances, and it has the condition that the owner tag is the same as the username of the user currently logged in. So that's what it means by AWS username. So if I'm logged in as Nick, my EC2 instance needs an owner tag with the value of Nick for me to be able to start and stop the instance. And also keep in mind that this assumes all other EC2 actions are denied by default. So that's a really useful feature that comes as part of tagging as well. Now the main benefit and the use of tags come from cost allocation tags. Once you've tagged your resources, you can enable cost allocation tags in the billing console. AWS then generate a cost allocation report based on your tags, and they'll give you a comma-separated value file with your usage and costs grouped by your active tags. This is extremely useful in an organization. You can tag all of your resources in an application, and then you can get a detailed report of how much it's costing you just to run that single application. And this may even give you further insights into how you can save money and reduce your AWS bill as well. Alright, I'm going to head over to my personal AWS account, and I'm going to see if I can create some tags and see what shows up in the billing console. So let's head on over. Okay, we're in the AWS Management Console, and I'm just going to click on EC2. And I think I've got one server running here. Yep, I've got one called test. So this is a tag itself, but if we go to Actions, and we can go to Instance Settings, Add and Edit Tags, this is where we can put all our tags in. So I can do one OS, and it's running Linux, and let's do something like environment, and that'll be test as well, and I'll just change the name to web, so it'll be running a web server. Something like that. So we'll click Save, and now we've got those tags. So you can come over here as well to add or edit your tags, and you can show them as columns too. So if I click Show Column, that'll give me an OS column right here, and you can sort on those as well if you've got multiple of them. Now what we want to do is head on over to billing, and I don't know if this is going to work straight away, but we'll have a look. So we've got billing, and we've got over here cost allocation tags. So we've got AWS generated cost allocation tags and the user defined cost allocation tags as well. And it says here a resource created by tag is an AWS generated cost allocation tag containing a resource creator information that is automatically applied to the resources that you create. And you can only do that here. So it'll automatically apply cost allocation tags to the resources you create. We also have the user-defined cost allocation tags, and this is what I'm going to have a look at here. And you can activate these based on your tags that you've created. So I'm going to look at those ones I just created: name, environment, and OS. And there's a few other tags that it's picked up just from other resources in my account. You can refresh this if you just created some tags, but you can only do that once every 24 hours. So I'm going to click on activate. We're going to activate the 3 inactive tags. Now what I'm going to do, we'll try a cost and usage report. We'll create a report. I'm just going to call this test tags. We'll click next. Now this will go into an S3 bucket. Let's create a new one called test tags. We'll confirm the policy. Oh, the bucket name exists. Let's just make it ACG. Oh, it's got to be lowercase. ACG test tags. Confirm. Okay, we'll do an hourly reporting, create a new report version, and that's fine. We'll click next, and we'll scroll down and review and complete. And that report is going to go to the S3 bucket. It says in the next 24 hours it'll be delivered. So I'm going to pause this video and I'll wait for that to be delivered, and then we'll see what's in it, and we'll see if those tags actually appear and actually show the EC2 instance that has it applied. All right, I'll be back in a moment. Okay, I'm back, and it's now actually the next day, and you can see here data last refreshed at 6 a.m. Okay, what I'm going to do now is open up this S3 bucket. Just going to middle click on that. And we've got a folder here. Looks like it doesn't even have a name, but let's go into that. Test tags. We'll select the date and we'll have a look in one of these. And we've got a gzipped CSV file. So this should be our report. So I'll click on that and then we'll click download. And then I'll open this, and we can open this directly from here. It's going to load up Excel. Now let's make this viewable by you. Okay, so this is our report, and it's got all the line items of every single resource currently being used in my AWS account, and it's all billed in USD. We can expand this to see what it is. Unblended rate, unblended cost, lots of things here. Now what I want to do is search for one of those tags that we created. So one of them was web server. So let's hopefully find it. And there it is. So we have 3 resource tags here. We've got the one called name, the one called OS, and the one called environment. So we can have a look here on this row 24. You can see it's in AP Southeast 2. And it's Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud, so that's our EC2 instance. So we can expand all these and see what's going on in there. If you come over here, you can see it's run instances. Now the ability to tag everything in your AWS account means that you can sort everything based on these tags in this CSV file and calculate how much something is costing you to run. And you can also find any line items of things you didn't know you were paying for and maybe clean up your bill and save yourself some money. So at a very basic level, that's how the billing tags work in AWS. I encourage you to go look at all the services you're using and see if you can tag some items and see what it says on your billing report tomorrow. All right, thanks for listening. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, feel free to move on to the next lecture. Hello Cloud Gurus, and welcome to this lecture on Amazon Elastic File System, or EFS. The description is almost as simple as the service purpose. It's a simple, scalable, elastic file system for Linux, which can be mounted through the Network File System Protocol, supporting version 4 and 4.1. It's fully managed, there's no maintenance required, it's easy to set up, you can use the console API or CLI, it's secure, it offers encryption at rest and in transit with all your keys managed by AWS KMS. It's remotely available, you can use AWS Direct Connect or AWS VPN, and you can mount your EFS to your on-premise servers. And that's a really important thing to remember for the exam. It's one way you can get data in and out of your VPC. And it's elastic. It automatically grows and shrinks based on your storage usage. Now there's 2 performance modes that EFS supports. There's general purpose, and this is the default. It's ideal for latency sensitive cases, like websites, content management, and home directories. And there's also Max.io. This scales to high levels of aggregate throughput, but it has slightly higher latency. So it's ideal for parallelized applications like big data analysis and media processing. Similarly, with storage classes, there are two of them available. First is the standard, and this is the default, and it's great for frequently accessed files. There's also the EFS IA. IA stands for infrequent access, and it's ideal for long-lived files that aren't accessed too often. This can reduce your storage costs without sacrificing the high availability or elasticity. Alright, now in the context of the exam, that's really all you need to know. It's a service and it exists and it's mounted to any Linux machine via NFS. There's no need to demo it here, so I'll finish this up. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, feel free to move on to the next lecture. Hello Cloud Gurus and welcome to this very quick lecture on Amazon Elasticache. I think this service was mentioned in just one of my questions, so I wanted to cover it just in case you'd never seen it before. Amazon Elasticache will let you seamlessly deploy, run and scale in-memory data stores, which in this particular instance can be Redis or Memcached. So a little about Redis and Memcached. As I said, they are in-memory data stores. They provide sub-millisecond latency data retrieval, and they're used to power real-time applications on the internet and can dramatically speed up your internet-based applications. Now that's about as far as I'll go with what the two applications are, but I'll leave some links in the resources if you'd like to learn more. However, I don't believe it's required for the exam. So regarding the actual Elasticache service, it's extremely fast. It's an AWS service, so it's fully managed. No hardware provisioning, setup or configuration or patching is required. It's highly available and it's easily scalable all the way up to a 170 terabyte cluster. And of course, it's both secure and compliant. So that's about it. If you do manage to get that one question that I did that mentioned ways to speed up your internet applications, Elasticache could very well be one of the solutions. So thanks for listening. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, feel free to move on to the next lecture. Hello Cloud Gurus and welcome to this lecture on Amazon S3 Glacier. Now you already know what S3 is. Here we'll be talking about Glacier instead. Glacier is long-term secure object storage, used for both data archiving and long-term backup. It's the service to use if you want to store a lot of data for a long time. It has a lot of nines durability. Your data is pretty safe using this service. It has comprehensive security and compliance capabilities, so if your company has data storage and security requirements, it's most likely going to be able to meet them. It has query in place functionality, which will let you run analytics on your data at rest. And you can store data for about as low as $0.004 per gigabyte per month, which is basically around $4 a terabyte per month, which is super cheap. So, super cheap, super durable and secure, who would use it? Well, we've got a few use cases. Any company dealing with media assets that they want to keep but might not access frequently, Glacier is perfect. Healthcare companies have to retain patient records for decades to meet regulatory requirements, so Glacier is a perfect fit here too. And scientific data might have to be archived as well. Anytime you have a lot of data, which doesn't need to be accessed very frequently, Glacier is an excellent option. It basically replaces the old tape archives that businesses used to use without the upfront and ongoing costs of buying tapes and equipment. Alright, so any exam question that mentions long-term archival, and especially that word archive that I saw come up in a few questions, you're going to want to seriously look at any answer that mentions Glacier. It's always going to be the best option for long-term, cheap data storage in your AWS environment. One last thing I'll talk about in regards to Glacier is retrieval. While it is excellent for long-term archival, and it does that in a very cost-effective way, it's the retrieval of your data which can incur significant costs. And you need to know about this if an exam question is talking about recovering that archived data. Now Glacier has 3 different data retrieval policies. And this helps simplify the costs of retrieving your data, just so you don't have to calculate how much you're going to pay per gigabyte and the associated network costs with that, and so on. So as you can see here, we have a free tier only, and this will only retrieve data within the free tier. This is a great feature that AWS have included, so you don't have to pay if you can wait a long time to retrieve the data from your Glacier archives. Currently, AWS allows you to retrieve 10 gigabytes of data per month for free from Glacier. Then there's the max retrieval rate, where you can limit the amount of data per hour you're going to allow Glacier to retrieve. And it gives you the cost right there as well, and it shows 1 gigabyte an hour will be about $8.64 a month. Then there's the default, which is no retrieval limit, and it will grab all of your data that is requested as fast as it can at whatever cost. Now, the actual things that make up the costs here are a few different variables, such as the retrieval pricing, the request commands, and the data transfer costs. And I've linked the Glacier pricing page in the resources section of this lecture, so you can look over them and get an idea of what they all are, and they change per region you're in as well. You'll also notice that when you retrieve data, the costs are more or less based on how quickly you want it, whether it's expedited if you need it in 1 to 5 minutes, down to the bulk retrieval where your data will be available in 5 to 12 hours. So keep in mind all of these things if any questions are talking about retrieving data from Glacier. Alright, all useful things to keep in mind for those exam questions. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, feel free to move on to the next lecture. Hello Cloud Gurus, and welcome to this lecture on AWS Direct Connect. This should just be a quick refresher of something that may come up in your exam. AWS Direct Connect allows you to establish a dedicated network connection from your premises to AWS without the internet. Why would you want to do that? Well, if you have servers in a data center, which is Direct Connect compatible, you get a blazingly fast connection to AWS. The internet generally is slow, so to have a direct fiber link into your AWS VPC is a huge speed boost no matter what your workloads are. So let's look at the features. It has consistent network performance. It's elastic and provides 1 gigabit and 10 gigabit connection options. And you can use multiple connections if you need more capacity. You can privately connect to your own VPCs. You can reduce bandwidth costs because it's not using your internet, it's just going via Direct Connect, and it's compatible with all AWS services. Now that's really all you need to know here. In regards to the exam, I think it was mentioned once or twice, and it's definitely a viable answer if your question is talking about faster or cost-reduced methods of transferring data into AWS. However, it can take up to 72 hours for AWS to review your request and provision the port for your connection. So it does have some setup time. Now keep that in mind because your question might be asking for a quick resolution to restoring files or something from your local servers. It's not something you can do immediately and on the fly. So when they're talking about RPOs and RTOs and how quickly they want to recover from an incident, you're not going to be able to set it up immediately and start moving files. Alright. That's all you need to know here. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, feel free to move on to the next lecture. Hello Cloud Gurus, and welcome to this quick lecture where we'll discuss a feature of AWS Lambda called dead letter queues. I had this appear once in my exam, so I thought it would be useful to briefly discuss it. When you run Lambda functions which are asynchronously invoked, they are retried twice before the event is discarded. If the retries fail and you don't know why, you can use something called a dead letter queue or DLQ to direct the unprocessed event to SQS or SNS so you can analyze the failure. If you don't, the Lambda events will be discarded. The payload sent to the target SQS or SNS queue is the original event payload, and the attributes contain this information to help you understand why the event wasn't processed. So it shows you the request ID, you get the error code, and the error message, truncated to 1 kilobyte. Errors could be due to permissions, the message size might be too big for the target queue, and so on. The dead letter queue is there to help you debug what is wrong with your Lambda event execution. And that's all you need to know. This one was short and sweet. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, feel free to move on to the next lecture. Hello Cloud Gurus, and welcome to this quick video on Amazon Cloud Search. Amazon Cloud Search is a service that makes it simple and cost-effective to set up, manage and scale search solutions for your website or applications. Just knowing this service existed helped me a lot when I set the beta for the exam, as it wasn't something that I had encountered before. Let's take a quick look at the features. Cloud Search is simple. You just point a sample of your data at it, and Cloud Search will recommend how to configure your search domain. It's scalable. It auto-scales up and down as required, with controllable scaling if you know you will need more capacity for a traffic surge. It's reliable, it supports multi-AZ mode, updates are automatically installed, and traffic is load balanced. It's high performance, low latency and high throughput with automatic sharding and horizontal and vertical scaling. And there's no hardware or software provisioning, software installation or configuration, patching or node monitoring, as it's fully managed. Now, as I said earlier, just knowing this exists is enough for this exam. It doesn't go too deep into any part of it at all. I'm mainly teaching you what it is so you can compare it with the service in the next video, which is Amazon Elasticsearch. So I'll finish up here so we can get to that. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, feel free to move on to the next lecture. Hello Cloud Gurus and welcome to this video on the Amazon Elasticsearch service. You'll notice this isn't just called Elasticsearch, it's Elasticsearch Service, and you'll find out why in the next slide. Amazon Elasticsearch Service is a fully managed service that makes it easy for you to deploy, secure and operate Elasticsearch at scale with zero downtime. So the service itself isn't Elasticsearch. Elasticsearch is a different piece of software which this service installs and manages for you. Before I show you the features of this service, it's a good time to learn what the ELK stack is. And I'm not sure if it appeared in my exam, but if you're in this industry, you'll probably come across it. The ELK or ELK stack is a combination of three pieces of software. The first is Elasticsearch itself. It's an open source, RESTful, distributed search and analytics engine. It's built on Apache Lucene, and it's based around high performance. The L stands for Logstash. Logstash is an open source data ingestion tool. It's used to collect data from a variety of sources, transform it, and send it to your desired destination. And the K is Kibana. Kibana is an open source data visualization and exploration tool for reviewing logs and events. It uses easy-to-use interactive charts and built-in aggregations and filters. Now, if you want to install an ELK stack but don't want to have to provision all of this software manually, the Amazon Elasticsearch service is for you. As I mentioned, it provides managed Elasticsearch, which also gives you all the open source Elasticsearch APIs that you might want to use. It provides managed Kibana, which I introduced you to in the last slide, so the service that does the visualizations. And it integrates with Logstash, the L in ELK, as well as other AWS services such as Kinesis Data Firehose, AWS IoT, CloudWatch Logs, KMS, IAM, and so on. It's cost effective and you only pay for what you use. There's no upfront fees or usage requirements. It's easily scalable. You can scale the entire cluster up or down with an API call or a few clicks in the console. Of course, it's highly available. It uses multi-AZ deployments and automatically replaces cluster instances if they die. It's secure. Keys are controlled with AWS KMS. Authentication is controlled with Cognito and IAM policies. And it's HIPAA and PCI and ISO standard. Alright, so that's the Amazon Elasticsearch service, an easy way for you to install an ELK or ELK stack if you require one. Now, I've got two URLs linked in the resources section of this lecture for you to take a look at if you'd like to learn more. One is about Elasticsearch itself, and the other is about the ELK stack. I highly recommend you take a look. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, feel free to move on to the next lecture. Hello Cloud Gurus and welcome to this very quick lecture on DynamoDB Accelerator or DAX. This was mentioned once in my exam, so of course I have to teach you what it is. DAX is a fully managed, highly available in-memory cache for DynamoDB. In essence, it makes DynamoDB really fast. It delivers up to 10 times the performance of regular DynamoDB. Milliseconds become microseconds. There's no cluster management, no application logic modifications, and it's compatible with existing DynamoDB API calls. You can enable it with just a few clicks, and that's it. If you want your DynamoDB to be blazingly fast, enable DAX, the DynamoDB accelerator. All right, that's a short and sweet one. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, feel free to move on to the next lecture. Hello Cloud Gurus, and welcome to this lecture on AWS Server Migration Service, or SMS. AWS SMS automates the migration of your on-premises VMware vSphere or Microsoft Hyper-V virtual machines into the AWS cloud. So it's a migration service. If you run all of your servers in vSphere and want to move them into EC2, then this service will help you do that. So let's talk about the features and benefits of using this service. Firstly, you can easily migrate to the cloud. It takes a few clicks in the AWS Management Console, then SMS takes over and manages all the requirements of the migration process. It automatically replicates volumes of the live servers, and it will create new AMIs which you can launch in the EC2 console. You can orchestrate multi-server migrations, bringing over all the servers you want at the same time and track the progress of that group. You can also test migrations incrementally. AWS SMS supports incremental replication, so you can migrate a server, change the server a little bit, and then migrate again, and only the changes will be replicated to AWS. It saves time and bandwidth. It minimizes your downtime, so you can quickly cut over from on-premise to EC2 servers after they're replicated and confirmed to be operational by you. And finally, it supports Windows and several major Linux distributions. Now, I had maybe one or two questions on migrating servers over to AWS in the DevOps exam, and you need to analyze what the question is asking and whether SMS will be suitable. In the resources section, I'm going to link the FAQ just so you can get a few more details about the service in your knowledge bank, though you should be reading the FAQ for all the services that I'm mentioning in this course. I've also got a link there to the console workflow just so you can read about the actual process of migrating a server. Alright, thanks for listening. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, feel free to move on to the next lecture. Hello Cloud Gurus, and welcome to this lecture on white papers. If you've already read these, then you can skip this lecture. If you haven't, you have a bit of reading to do. These white papers all come suggested by AWS in the exam guide for the DevOps Professional exam. You need to read them all. Trust me, there will be some little example or detail in them that will give you the answers to a few questions that otherwise you would have been tossing up between a few possible answers, and they'll give you the right answer. They're full of excellent knowledge, written and vetted by industry experts. All of these will be linked as a resource as well to make your life a bit easier. First up, running containerized microservices on AWS. This paper talks about application lifecycle management, security, and architectural software design patterns for container-based applications on AWS. This will help with any questions talking about ECS and software development in general, which applies to everything in Domain 1. Next, we have microservices on AWS. This also applies to SDLC automation as well as infrastructure as code, so Domain 1 and 2. It has excellent coverage of how a lot of AWS services can be used together to create software solutions. The third white paper is Infrastructure as Code. This is self-explanatory and targets Domain 2 and 3. It covers the usual CloudFormation, but also goes into Systems Manager, OpsWorks, and a bit about the monitoring side of things with CloudWatch. Next, we have practicing continuous integration and continuous delivery on AWS, which again directly relates to Domain 1. I stress that you read this thoroughly, as CI/CD is a huge part of the exam. I had a lot of questions covering it, and every service related to Code Pipeline. And next is a topic we haven't covered much in this course, which is Jenkins on AWS. It's not an AWS service, but it is something that might come up once or twice in the exam. This white paper has a long explanation of CI/CD and how it can be integrated with Code Pipeline. I highly suggest you read this white paper thoroughly and look at all the possible solutions that they list out, which shows various ways that Jenkins can be integrated. Fairly self-explanatory, import Windows Server to Amazon EC2 with PowerShell. This white paper walks through a lot of the information about EC2 and the AWS Server Migration Service, as well as VM importing and exporting. It's a small but important part of the exam. You probably don't have to go through the tutorials that it has, but make sure you read through the process. This one shouldn't be new to you at all. Blue-green deployments on AWS talks about blue-green deployments and all the ways that's achievable using AWS services. That is Route 53, load balancing, auto-scaling, and so on. It goes into some detail regarding Beanstalk, OpsWorks, and CloudFormation as well. This covers quite a few possible questions in the exam, so make sure you don't miss it. This is another self-explanatory one, Introduction to DevOps on AWS. It talks through infrastructure as code, as well as continuous deployment, automation, monitoring, and security. And finally, Development and Test on AWS discusses various phases of the software development lifecycle, with a specific focus on development and test. For development, it covers version control and build tools. For test, it covers how to manage test environments, such as load testing, fault tolerance testing, and so on. So they are the 9 white papers that AWS list in their exam outline for the DevOps exam. I think if you read and understand these all fully, you'll definitely have a solid knowledge base to pass the exam. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, feel free to move on to the final lecture. Hey Cloud Gurus, I just wanted to take a moment to both congratulate and thank you for completing my course. I worked a long time on this and I sat the actual exam a few times to ensure I covered everything that you need to know for the exam. I've already had feedback from some students and I want to thank them for helping me improve the course as well. If you do sit the exam and encounter a topic or detail that I've missed, I'd love to hear about it. I don't take feedback as a negative thing. I use it to improve my courses. So please post on the forum and let me know how you went, what your thoughts were, and what you thought was most difficult. Before going into that exam room though, make sure you double check the exam guide, which I'll link as a resource here, and make sure it's all covered. Make sure you know what every AWS service I spoke about does. One thing I did in preparation was write out a list of all the services and then write a 1 to 5 word description about what it does, and that's a great way to determine which ones you're comfortable with and which ones you might need to review. There's also some sample questions from AWS which I've linked here too, and they'll give you a great idea on what to expect in the exam in regards to question and answer length and complexity. Again, congratulations on completing the course. Good luck with the exam. With the right preparation, I'm confident you can pass with flying colours. Good luck!